Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is one I've been waiting for a while to come on out. And before I get into that, I will also address this. I saw the Man of Steel. I meant to do a review on that the following day. Something came up. I was literally then the next day just fell asleep after I got back from work, and then the following, I think, day or two after that, I was literally sitting down and started to record it when a buddy of mine sent me messaged me through Steam and invited me into a game, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll join him for a quick game. 3 hours later, so sorry about missing out on that review. I guess I'll give a quick thing for that real fast. I like that film was okay to me. Not the biggest Superman fan. I found it to be all right. Now let's get to what is before me. World War Z. I have read the book, and I enjoyed the book. That's not to say, though, that I thought it was a perfect story. There was a lot, and I mean a lot of really dumb stuff from the books. I think I said that in a previous video. That, even as reading it, I would be like, what? That is complete bullshit. The whole Battle of Yonkers, if you know anything about anything, you don't have to be an ex-army guy or anything to know. You casually watch the History Channel, you can pick apart that, like, the stupidity of that whole scene, where it's really the author is inducing so much stupidity in order to get the result he wants. There was some other moments in the book as well, and you're just kind of head scratching, like, what, really? There was also cool stuff, really cool ideals about how people would probably adapt to the zombie apocalypse, what measures would be taken and stuff like that, and so it was enjoyable. And unlike a lot of people, I never thought that the movie was unfilmable. A lot of the people that assume that only want like a direct translation of the book. You don't have to do that. Books and movies are their own things. However, I think one of the things that does make World War Z the book, or its franchise, is that ideal is a collection of stories. For those of you unfamiliar with the actual book, the book is actually a collection of stories from the zombie apocalypse. Hence, it has that scale of being that the title. It's World War Z because it's not any one particular person's story. It is the story of the entire conflict, and it's about how humans adapt to this stuff. And it works as you get some context of there being it's an author who is traveling the world and collecting stories about how various people survived and dealt with the zombie apocalypse, and it does deal with a lot of the fallout. It's really one of the only thing I can really think of that does deal with the post-zombie apocalypse. I mean, like, okay, we've gotten things under control. How does the world change? How would an event like this change society? And it deals with a lot of those issues, and it's not as hard as people think. If I were to adapt World War Z, I would probably basically start it off as you show, your opening credits are, your main character driving into like Washington D.C. and at first it looks normal, but then you start noticing there's some things are different. Like there's walls up, the houses look more like forts. Maybe people are walking around with holsters and stuff on, just like walking because of safety. You see maybe a couple of people that have like chainmail as like a style or something. Stuff like that, and you slowly start picking up, okay, he goes into DC, he gets an assignment that he's to travel the world and try to collect stories for some sort of like big post-analysis report or something, and then he goes to various places. I'd probably do one as like a soldier, and to get some more of the military aspect, how he maybe tracks early zombies. That character, you can do the early zombie outbreaks up to like the big Yonker type stuff. Follow maybe the Russian, condense a lot of the Russian stuff into one campaign, one story. Intersplice this maybe where you show he's interviewing people and it's feeding in. The South African guy I'd probably do as well. What's his name? Redeker? I think that was his name. Pretty sure that was it. Show him, do his interview where he explains the tactics. You can cut into actually showing the countries do that. Maybe one or two others. And that's all you really need to do. Would it cover every little thing? No, not every little thing from the book. And maybe you can, make your own story by throwing a few elements from various people's tales to make it work. And I think it'll be fine. How is this film, though? I went in with really low expectations because there was a lot of talk. The Max Brooks has basically said this is a World War Z movie in name only. I think he actually said that directly. They didn't have a Battle of Yonkers scene in here, which is really surprising. Because it's like the big battle of the series, and you figure that was going to be in there. But there is action. So I heard all this stuff. It had some really bad CGI in the trailer. So I went in with low expectations, and as a result, I found it to be an okay film. If I had any higher of an expectations, I'd be disappointed and pissed off. It is a PG-13 zombie movie, which there isn't a lot of excess gore, but I will admit I didn't exactly miss it. Because when there are scenes, I guess it kind of goes to the cosmic horror elements. For those of you familiar with cosmic horror, the cosmic horror deals with scale. You realize just how tiny we are, people are, and an individual is, and you can't get gore with that normally. So that there is surprisingly, I think if this was like a couple years ago, like in the late 90s, it would have been an R. But it would have been nice to have some more gore. I think maybe making it PG-13 did not help things as much as they think it would or did. But I will give them the credit that I did not notice it as much. I'm sure other people will, but I think a lot of the people that are going in there, you're going in looking for that. You're looking for the cuts, or where could have been more gory. And some people are going to complain, oh yeah, zombies get shot, I don't see any blood flying around. In real life, because I am the type of guy that goes online sometimes and looks up some of those like shootout videos and stuff. Real life, it's not as bloody as you might think. A lot of the gore comes from like a little bit after the gunshots and such. So, yeah. Anyway, the movie's got a couple problems, despite me saying it's an okay zombie movie. Outside of the PG-13 and the missing gore, because I'm not really as stringent when it comes to that. I think as some people that are real gore hounds. Sometimes the PG-13 stuff annoys me, sometimes it doesn't. I didn't totally notice it in this one, so it got a pass. Might have been better if it had the gore, though. Most likely would have been. There's a couple scenes that I think if they showed what was going on, it would have been better. Like Brad Pitt cuts off an Israeli soldier's arm. But really, there's a problem in this movie though with editing. And I think it's edited so you do not. And this is where I think you do get problems with it being a PG-13, because there's a lot of fast editing. It's those quick cut stuff where you're bouncing all over the place real fast with a lot of cuts. Slow it down, man. Slow it down. I don't need 10,000 different views of the same scene within 30 seconds. Because it is sad, because I've seen like some of the behind the scenes. They were filming this in Glasgow, I believe, and there are people that are up in the office buildings and they're just filming the scenes, and they sometimes you're able to figure out what's exactly going on better in those scenes than all this crazy cutting back and forth. Stop that. This is not a unexperienced director either doing this film. It is Mark Forster, who this is a Bond guy. This is a guy that did Quantum of Solace. Oop, hit the wrong thing. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, director of Quantum of Solace, Monsters Ball, Finding Neverland, Machine Gun Preacher. I haven't seen that one yet. So, well, now that I think about it, I think Quantum of Solace did have some quick cut issues in that too. Can't all be perfect. So there's that, and also it's really badly paced. Some people have actually said they really liked the beginning. I think they're referring to the part where Brad Pitt is running, trying to get to New York. And I think the problem the film has is this is kind of just throw you right into the world. It doesn't do much of establishing. There's zombies out there. There's stuff going. The books did a very good job of explaining how the zombie epidemic came up really slow, that it had to build for a while, and how people were kind of aware what was going on, but they didn't really realize. And then what happened was the Great Panic, when basically people were getting really, really panicky. The military tried to do a show of force, the Battle of Yonkers, that failed miserably, even though it wasn't a great military defeat. And at that point, people freaked out, and you had like massive civil unrest, which only made the zombie problem worse. And I will also point out, in the books, that's really kind of the main point. It's humanity and our nervousness. That's what caused the problems. Once humanity gets its act together, in the books, it just defeats the zombies. The Redeker character comes up with a strategy, a flat-out military strategy, and humanity just fights the zombies to defeat them. They do it the good old-fashioned way, and it's really just a case of humanity getting out of its comfort zone, adapting, thinking straight, organizing itself, not panic, that defeats the zombies. It really, from the get-go, it is the case of, if people were conscious and got their act together from early on, the zombie probably would have been taken care of. That's basically the message of the books. Here, though, it is quite clear that the zombies are just flat out winning. And they're kind of right. They're already right there. The book starts with the movie starts with a quick scene of Brad Pitt in his house. They hear some stuff on the news, but there's nothing to talk. There's nothing major. They really needed like a good 10-minute scene before this to explain what's going on in the world. Something in there. I'm not sure exactly what you would do. I mean, they say Brad Pitt used to be an investigator for the UN, and he went to a lot of dangerous places. I guess you could have sold him that he's now working at a think tank in Philly. So you could have had a scene where he's at his Philadelphia office, and they're discussing what's been going on, and where they can then show them being kind of dismissive, not taking the problem that seriously until it starts to explode in Philadelphia there. That's what that movie needed. The movie really needs that 10-minute scene in the beginning, because they kind of go straight from that scene where Brad Pitt's at home and it just establishes a little bit about his character, he's a family man, to the scene kind of right from the trailer where he's in Philadelphia and the zombies are just there and start attacking, and that's where the jump cutting stuff really starts to happen, because you're not sure what's going on. You're not sure who's a zombie and who's not. It's very unsure. I suppose that's what he's going for, the director. You, the audience, are not supposed to know what's going on, except we do. We're going to a movie called World War Z. We know what's happening. It's zombies coming. Which, by the way, they actually call them zombies in this movie. At first, they get a memo from apparently South Korea. It says, the memo said they're zombies. And I'm kind of okay with that, because I am sick and tired of films just trying to make up new versions of names to call zombies. Just fucking call them zombies. I mean, they make up all the nicknames. They call them Zeds and stuff, which is from the book. But, yeah. Walkers, the undead, the infected. They're zombies. Call them zombies. But yeah, it's hard to follow that. This really, unlike those people that I saw that really liked the opening act, I was liking it better in the later half because stuff was just happening too fast, and I think it put too much of a time pressure. Because again, like I explained in the book, it was very clear that it took months for the zombie epidemic to build up to its catastrophic levels. It went from being rare to slowly spreading to different areas before it finally had collapse. And before then, it became problems in certain parts of the third world. It started in China, and China was somewhat suppressive of what was happening. Not only in China, but in like the way western parts of China. So remote, so it didn't really hit the more populous east coast of China. And they, of course, dealt with various issues and such with people causing the problems, like selling organs and such. So it happens way too fast. And then once you feel like, as Brad Pitt's traveling everywhere, you feel like, oh my god, the entire world's collapsing right now. And I think that's because most zombie films really skip over the actual apocalypse. And this is, I think, what will stand out with World War Z, is it does concentrate more on the actual breakdown of society, what's going on, the various failures and such. And I really wish we saw more of that. I think this movie might have even been better if it was set up more like a disaster movie, which is another way you could have done World War Z, where you are following various characters who normally in the beginning they either start off in different spots and then they meet at the end, and they all had various experiences of this one big event, or they start off somewhat connected and then they kind of somewhat re-meet together at the end, or come across various. You can see throughout the movie that there's some sort of interconnection between all of them, and where you could have had the guys in the office trying to command this, like at the ship. And then you could have had Brad Pitt as being the hero that's really out in the field achieving this objective, but then having other people out there, and you're seeing all the various aspects of the zombie apocalypse. That could have worked too. Like how, because Brad Pitt kind of jumps all over the globe here. He starts off actually traveling to South Korea when they finally get him on the boat. Which is, that stuff actually is from the books, where they talk about there's fleets of ships out there, and I think they look like a small fleet though. They only had like maybe a dozen, 20, maybe 24 ships total. I doubt that in that scene. They really should have showed it like it was a real armada that was being assembled out. Like, I think they kind of messed that part. That they really could have had show like over cruise liners that are just overflowing with people. Cargo ships and stuff in that fleet, and just make it like 100, 200 ships. And I think that would have been a better shot. That's a minor nitpick, but really want to try to get the sense of scale of the disaster, and don't show like there's like 500 people in that little fleet. Whereas in the books, that's really how it's described. Like there's just millions of people sitting out in the ocean trying to wait out this apocalypse. Sorry. They launched a C-17 or C-130 off of an aircraft carrier. I'm not sure how did they land that on there? I mean, I can maybe see them putting rockets to do the takeoff, but they had to land that thing on that aircraft carrier. I don't think they can do that. I mean, they might technically, but I don't know. That's a nitpick too. But Brad Pitt's kind of bouncing all over the world here. He starts off. They get a message from, as I said before, South Korea. He flies out there. That's kind of a dead end. Except he runs into a random CIA guy who's like, basically, he's like, the North Koreans are going to survive this. They pulled out their teeth. Well, I forget if North Korea had a weird section where like nobody knows what happens to North Korea in the book. Like, so there's a whole big section on that where they're just like, did happen. Like, everyone's like, North Korea has been dark. We're not sure. It was really the country that was most prepared to handle this type of situation. I forget if they said there was teeth pulling in that or not, but anyway, the CIA guy's like, you should ask what happened with Israel. Israel's already built the walls and stuff, and this stuff just got big 3 days ago. Yeah, in the books it was more of a build-up than that, but so they fly off to Israel next. And the Israeli scene is probably the one that's most accurate, yet at the same time completely inaccurate to the books. For a good part of the scene leading up to this one moment, it's really kind of straight out of the books, and I think that's like that scene must have been the one that was in the script from the beginning, when it was probably more faithful. Because there's lines right out of there, and really it's kind of weird because plot-wise, I would say Israel's probably the one of the big things I would skip, along with the space station, if I was ever adapting it, because in the books, Israel just kind of, or in the book I should say, Israel just kind of sits it out. Like, they get the ideal early, and they explain why. They actually explain why in the books, in the movie here as well, that the Israelis adapted some policy where if everyone's agreeing something's not a problem, one of the 10 important guys or military leaders is required to not only disagree but try to find a way that they basically try to prove the null hypothesis, as we would say in more scientific terminology. Basically, if everyone thinks polar bears are not a problem to Israeli wildlife, by their own rule, they pick someone who will be what they call, I think, like the one or the 9th guy or something like that, where he is going to not only advocate that polar bears are a problem, he's going to go out and try to get the evidence to prove it. It becomes his mission. And so when they start hearing early rumors of zombies, this one guy not only really tries to find it, he puts the effort, and through his investigation actually finds the proof, and they're like, oh shit, well, time to start putting up walls early on. That's how it happens in the books, and in the books, they also completely skip, even though they showed Palestinian troops helping the Israelis. In the books, they also got the Israelis kind of quickly realize we can't fight zombies and have a Palestinian issue at the same time. So they kind of make peace with Palestine real fast, and they agree to protect the Palestinians as well. It's because I just find it weird that they, in the book, clearly remembered that part, because there was Palestinian troops there helping the Israelis, while at the same time not mentioning it. I have a feeling there's a lot of stuff cut. And here's the problem, though, where it gets unfaithful, is that the zombies actually breach the walls in the scene you see from the trailers, where they just like climb on top of each other. And basically Israel then gets fucked. One of the few countries that in the novel survived great. Like, Israel came out on top. Israel and Palestine, basically, they just cut the Middle East in half, because like it's completely depopulated afterwards, and Palestine basically controls everything. The Palestinians basically get the entire Arab Peninsula to themselves after that. And Israel gets like northern Egypt to add to Israel. And both are happy. So in this, though, they breached the wall. The whole point of... I don't know why they felt they had to do that. There's so many other places you could have had a quick scene where he's in Israel and he gets a little message and he just flies out. If you want it to be, an actual World War Z book. I really don't know why they had the Israeli stuff. You could have done that anywhere else. Russia would have been a good one. Which, by the way, I thought there's some scenes that I think was cut from this movie, because I remember seeing the early set pictures of Brad Pitt wearing this like kind of armored outfit in what looked like a Russian trawler. I want to know what happened to that. But anyway, he starts to piece together what's an ideal based on I gotta mention this part. Like, they set him up. Like, the reason they want him to go out is they want him to team up with a It's a virologist. Damn it, I'm kicking myself right now. A scientist who's like their best hope for finding a cure, finding the origin. Because once they find the origin of the virus, they can create a vaccine. And like the first time they encounter zombies, the doctor runs back onto the plane, slips. He's got a pistol, slips, falls, and accidentally shoots himself in the head. It's incredible. Like, you could have done anything else. It's like, this is such pathetic death. Like, have a zombie that's like run, jump over these guys, and attack and kill them. That would have worked. Or you could have, since like a bunch of soldiers then show up when they hear the gunfights that are still hiding out on this base, you could have had one of them accidentally shoot him. That would have been something. Or you could have just let the guy survive for a while instead of just killing him off. You could have killed him off in Israel if you were still going to keep that scene. But I laughed when I saw that. It's such a pathetic way he died. He just like slips, falls in a very awkward manner with the gun. That's like as he's falling, pointing at his head, and it shoots him. I'm like, really? Did I just see that happen? Oh, is this going to be a Goofy movie now? But no, that's it, and that's really just bad writing there. He slips and shoots himself when there's zombies around. Really, if you're that's just such bad writing. You get ahead, he gets attacked by the zombies. They bite him, he dies. Or a stray bullet hits him. Or, he survives and you kill him off later on in the plot. Especially considering, like, Brad Pitt starts, an female Israeli soldier kind of follows him throughout the rest of the movie. There really isn't any reason why the doctor couldn't have been that female character. And there's a plane crash where you could have then had that doctor killed off. Then that would have been That would have been a scene to have him killed off. They escape when Israel's collapsing after the walls breach. Brad Pitt winds up getting on a plane out. Like the Israeli soldiers basically stopped this airliner for him. They let him and this other female Israeli soldier who he cut the hand off to prevent her from being infected on. And really, up to that point, you could have had that be the virologist. And when they get on the plane, eventually, apparently, a zombie was hiding in like a cabin or like the little dolly that goes up and down from the cargo section. And they're flying to England, and the zombie gets loose on the plane crashes. Like, if they had the doctor, that would have been the perfect scene to have that doctor character killed off. Because before then, he's slowly losing the team he was sent out with, like, versus the doctor. Then he had 2 SEALs with him. The SEALs are dead. And then he had a pilot, and the pilot kind of left. And by the way, they also had this weird scene, speaking of that pilot. It's in the trailer where they see a nuke going off. They don't explain what's going on. That's, again, why I feel like they cut out a lot. The movie was under 2 hours, and I think, really, this should have traded places with Man of Steel. Man of Steel, if I will make a complaint on that, is it is way too long. It's like they crunched 2 movies together, and it's... Man of Steel, they could have cut out a little bit of the Zod. You had to cut probably either the origin or the stuff with Zod and make it a 2-hour movie and redo it. I don't want to get too much into that without having to go through a review, which at this point would be no point. Anyway, they could have done that. This one you could have really made it into a zombie epic, where it could have been a 2.5-hour long movie, 2-hour and 40-minute long movie, and I think it would have bought it a lot better, especially if it had that epic scale. But anyway, short, he runs off. They crash. He eventually gets to this. The reason was he figures out that he starts to notice the zombies seem to be ignoring people that seem really sick, possibly with some sort of really nasty other diseases that are really nasty. And he figures that the zombies don't attack and people that are sick. It would have been nice if he just They kind of skip it. They don't explain whether he really explains his theory to anyone. yet, but he eventually finds out there's possibly a health facility in England, and he goes there, and that's when they, through circumstance, he's forced to inject himself with a possibly lethal virus, and he figures, and the zombies leave him alone. Then that's how the humans start fighting. And then it gets really into World War Z, where we start seeing what we want to see in this movie. Various people finding different ways of fighting the zombies. Like, there is still a good movie to be made there, and it's in that last 2 minutes where, like, they show in Russia, people are like the Russians have sickles and big pikes, like, made out of wood that they just, like, carved up, and there's just, like, a ton of Russians in the streets killing the zombies, stabbing them and cutting them up with the spikes, and they call it, like, the Battle of Moscow. And you're like, I want to see that movie. I want to see the movie where the Russians go, fuck these zombies, we don't got guns, we're just gonna stab them with sharp sticks in mass. Like, I want to see that. They show a couple of other quick scenes where there's, like, somewhat the military is getting its act together. There's another scene where there's civilians who are on top of a apartment building, and they build, like, flamethrowers, and they're just waiting for the zombies to pile up, and they just, like, douse them with gasoline and light up the entire thing. So, like, yes, that's World War Z. They should have done way more of that. If they had actually done more of that, like, as Brad Pitt is going, cutting to various other parts of the world, like cutting back to the ship, the command ship that his UN buddies or bosses on, and then dealing with other issues, finding out stuff, that would have been much better. That's a better movie in there. And who knows, that movie maybe is on the cutting room floor. I don't know why it's so messed up. This is World War Z. It should be it's a disaster movie. They really have to treat it as a disaster movie, because, as I said, most zombie films are either pre the zombie apocalypse or post zombie apocalypse. They don't show the actual collapsing of civilization. It's either a small incident that, like, grows to become big, and that starts the bigger zombie pandemic, or most are showing what happened, like, okay, well, the big stuff's over, now it's just small groups of survivors. Most the remake of Dawn of the Dead is a perfect example there, where you get, like, a couple minutes of that, but we don't get anything else. The only two films that slightly show that really address this, well, maybe three, are the original Dawn of the Dead. Did a whole lot where they're watching the news and they're following people, and they're following the news as civilization slowly collapses. And you see in the beginning them in the cities trying to deal with this stuff. Resident Evil Apocalypse, we get a few moments of that where they're trying to do containment and stuff. Not the best scene either. And then 28 weeks later, when the military is trying to contain the outbreak that happens there, we get some good sense of how everything's collapsing. Like 28 weeks later, and the original Dawn of the Dead, best two examples of that. And now this film a bit, but they don't show enough of it. They really needed to show the scale of how things are collapsing. And that's when you could have really brought in various stuff from the books. Addressing the books, there was, like, a stuff with, like, people thought it was rabies, and now all of a sudden, now it's no, sorry, people thought it was a rabies vaccine would help us, and it's no longer there, and that's causing more panic. You could have shown stuff like with that nuclear bombs going off in the books, I keep on saying with an S. In the book, there is a nuclear exchange between Pakistan and Iran, which is supposed to catch everyone off guard, and there's a whole plot about that, where they don't explain that. How there's, they don't explain. That would be a perfect scene where you see the nukes go off, and then you could have cut, because they show a nuke going off. They don't explain whose nuke that was. Was it Israel nuking itself? Like, that area has been infected, so we're going to nuke that section of Jerusalem. Except, no, that was before they got to Israel, so we don't know what they were nuking, who was nuking who. It was probably supposed to be the scene India and Iran nuking, or Pakistan and Iran nuking each other, and it would have been cool if they had that explosion and then they cut to back to the ship and they started going through. Oh my God, Iran and India are nuking each other, and then you give us a little bit of that sense. It would have been more interesting, more exciting. As like little stuff like that could have added so much more to this film, and that's why it's really a disappointment. It's still not the complete train wreck I thought it was going to be, but like I said, I was going with really, really bad expectations, and really, if they had kept the same pace and this bad positioning as the first couple, the first act before he gets on the ship, I was really going like this is not looking good. Although it was nice, though, they did change it, except for this one small part, where basically people are not complete douchebags. Oh my God, there's a disaster. Let's all be horrible people. Like people are surviving, but they're not assholes. Like Brad Pitt's trying to get asthma medication for his daughter at a pharmacy, and the guy comes out with a guy appears in the corner as the store's being looted with a gun, points at him, and as he sees what he's grabbing, the guy helps him out. Like all of a sudden, it's like, oh, that guy's being nice. Like he helps him out. Not only does he help him out, he goes like, this stuff also works wonders for my kid's asthma. You should take this stuff too. Okay, the guy's not being a douchebag. Then of course they cut to apparently his wife is being attacked. Like looks like they're about to rape her as they're looting the store. Like we had no context for what's going on there. Just that douchebaggery is happening. Like falling into that trope. But then at least then later on they cut back to, and then they're in an apartment building in Newark. So hey, New Jersey gets some representation there. They're in Newark. By the way, and he's surprised that in Newark his car got stolen. You shouldn't be surprised if your car gets stolen in Newark and it's not the zombie apocalypse. But they're going up an apartment building and they meet a Hispanic family that takes them in. They take them in, they don't question it. Neither family is douchey or does anything horrible to the other. It's like you kind of actually like that because I think we've seen enough disasters recently, especially in the States, like in Katrina. I've seen it in maybe not to like as bad as Katrina here with Sandy. We're still recovering from that, but nobody was. You didn't see any. There were cops with assault rifles walking around the neighborhoods. I had to show my ID at a checkpoint for a week, but you didn't see any like looting or anything or anyone doing. Most people were helping each other out. As I guess in the end, most people are not douchebags. And that part was nice. Is there anything else I want to talk? CG could have been better, but there wasn't as much CG. They do actually have people in zombie costumes. It's not like the Will Smith and not what the hell is it? I was about to say I Am Omega, but that's the original. I Am Legend, that was it. Where they do all like the zombie-ish creatures are all CGI no matter what. There is that. So if you're worried about, oh my god, all the zombies are going to be CGI, just those scenes that you saw in the trailer are where you see most of the zombie CGI stuff. The rest, they do actually have actors with zombie makeup, and it's okay zombie makeup. So I guess we get down to, okay, overall, what's my film? What's my recommendation? Going with low expectations. If you're just looking like I'm gonna see every movie that has zombies in it, you'll find this one bad. It's not the worst. It's certainly not the worst. Anyone that's a really hardcore zombie fan that say this is the worst zombie movie ever, unless you're a pure gore hound, which you're judging your film purely based on the amount of gore it has, it's not the worst. It's not the best either. But yeah, I actually have Bruno Mattei's Hell of the Living Dead, put it in context. And I guess if you really nitpick, you could really nitpick the hell out of that one too, let's face it. So that's the best way I can explain it. I don't want to say, oh yeah, it's not that bad, because I think the reason I found it acceptable was I had really low expectations for the film. Oh, and the other thing that there was one thing, and this is purely a nitpick, and purely because I'm from the area. When Pitt escapes from Philly and is like driving to New York, he's like, I'm gonna try to get to New York to be rescued, or I'm scratching my head how he like drives into New York. Like, if you're looking for a safe spot to get picked up or to find refuge, he's driving on 95. It's really, really fucking easy to get to Fort Dix. Like, really, it's right down the road from frickin' from Philadelphia. Not even a half hour. Half hour max, 45 minutes if you're in a lot of traffic. Like, I can get to not LA, but I can get to Philadelphia in under an hour from where I'm at. And Fort Dix, McGuire, Lakehurst, which is all one big base actually, is like midway between that. So in probably less than a half hour if there's really nobody on the roads. And if he's going up around like by Trenton, he's still passing what? Earl he could get to? I don't know. See, that's nitpicks because I know the roads that it's supposed to be on, and it's clearly shot in England because I'm like, that's not the Pinelands he's driving through, or not Pennsylvania. That's not Pennsylvania. That's England he's driving through. But still, that's a minor nitpick, and one that unless you were, it's like New Yorkers are. If I lived in DC for a short while, so seeing like this is McPherson Square, and you're looking at that is not fucking McPherson Square. What are you? Is it pronounced McPherson Square? Whatever that square was pronounced. That bullshit that's taking place there. Yeah, that's just a local nitpick. And I think I've rambled. Oh, there is one thing, and I really have to address this. The family is horrible. They are they are not relatable. The kids, of course, are only there to do stupid shit to almost get their... They wander off in the middle of stuff to do really stupid things. Shit's going down crazy, so of course they freak out. Not like normal kids who would be nervous, but like they get nervous and they not only like get, oh my god, dad, like do that annoying shit, which is reasonable in that situation. Even though I think a lot of children would just shut the fuck up at that point. Like the dad's driving crazy through Philadelphia to save them, and like the one daughter unbuckles herself and like crouches down in the middle of the seat, which causes, of course, him to have an accident. Like, what kid does that? And of course, even though the world's collapsing and she knows her husband can save, all she's worried, she doesn't want him to help out at all. Even when it's clear, like, I can get you a chopper to come rescue you. She's like, she kind of agrees with him at first. They agree not to join up because it would mean going back to work for the UN. Even though the UN's offering, if you come and join us, we'll send you a chopper. Like, really? Look around, lady. The wife is completely... You hate her. You really hate her by the end. You're like, you are useless. You look around. You are in the zombie fucking apocalypse. And if that was like a character arc where they were trying to show that, like, okay, see, she's not getting it, but at the end she realizes that it's survival mode now. You've got to fight. Yeah, that would have been one thing. So the family's gonna annoy you. It's bad writing on the family part. I mean, they could have had the family and have them not be completely like annoying. It's not that hard. Write kids as kids really are. Anyway, I've gone on for 45 minutes now. I think that's enough for World War Z. It's muh. If you say you hate it, I'm not gonna disagree. You're probably right. If you say it's the worst zombie film ever, dude, you have not seen as many zombie films as you think. Then. Oh. Alright, guys, that's it for now. I think White House Down is next week. We'll see how that turns out until I can compare it to, what was the Gerald Butler one? My brain is fried today. I think I spent too much time out in the sun. But that's to look forward to. So, signing off.